All right. There was a divorce filed. This is a 12-year marriage, I believe, or the marriage was 7/18 of 08. There's one child, age 15, 2 mortgages because the petitioner is in the Air Force, and apparently they bought a home in San Antonio, and they have a home in Andover, Butler County, Kansas. Works for a school district as a cook. And there are quite a few issues that have been raised in the motion to modify. I reviewed the case on Friday, and Ms. Story, I will say that ordinarily Wichita attorneys, although they're not required, file the affidavits that involve displacement of individuals by virtue of being served with process to assure that they have housing or a place to go and the funds to do so. I checked with our chief judge. It's not something he's interested in adopting necessarily. But I was in the middle of a jury trial in Greenwood County at the time involving a defendant from Florida, and a case that had to be tried. And that's when we had the big snowstorm. So I was not in my office, and I signed the temporary order where I might ordinarily make some phone calls if I don't have an affidavit, which, as I indicated, is not required. It is by local rule, as I understand it, in Sedgwick County, and it's frequently done in Butler just because the attorneys are used to filing that document. But I did want to mention that. And now there's a motion to modify, and Mr. Mantla, it's your motion, so you may proceed with the hearing at this time.
May it please the court. The first legal issue is custody and parenting time. As the court's aware, the parties have a daughter, Nara, age 15. She's in high school in the Andover School District. She doesn't have any siblings that are minors anymore, so she's basically at home by herself. If one of the parents isn't there, which is going to be an issue we're going to talk about. And the current ex parte order is shared residency with a 2-5 schedule. So every other weekend for each parent, and then each parent has 2 designated weeknights every week. And we're asking for the court to modify the ex parte temporary order so that dad has parenting time every other weekend from Friday at 5:30 to Sunday at 8 p.m. and then 1 weeknight per week from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And there's a couple issues. I think the biggest issues coming up is summer. So child's not she's in high school. She doesn't have she's going to be at home during the summer. And my client is a cook in the Andover School District, and so she's not going to work this summer. So she needs to have primary residency this summer. We're asking for the whole year, but I mean certainly this summer. And that's how it's historically been the last several years. 5 years ago, they were in San Antonio, and my client was a stay-at-home mom, and so we have that exhibit in our notebook. Let's see if I can find it here.
So since she's been in Andover, does she? I mean, I don't know what kind of work she would do during the summer unless there was some summer school as a cook. But is she ordinarily always off during the summer?
Yes, yeah. So when they were in San Antonio, I'll just give a history here. They moved to Wichita. It'll be 2 years ago this July. And so before that, they were in San Antonio, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And then when they moved here 2 years ago, she continued that. And then it was just 2 months. And so 2 months into last year, she took this job as a cook. And so she's historically been a stay-at-home mom, hasn't worked in the summer, and the child's 15. So she needs someone to watch her. She doesn't drive yet. So she still needs, a parent overseeing her during the summer. She doesn't have anybody in the house with her. So she'd just be by herself if both parents are working. I mean, she can't just be, we don't think she should be at home by herself, without any siblings or, or something to do. So the plan is always, my client always watches her during the summer. That's historically, how it's worked. And that's why in that exhibit, we have that VA, it's that documentation from that Exhibit L is in Larry. And this was when they're in San Antonio. It's a representation by Petitioner that the respondent provides childcare free of charge. And so that's kind of just to show the court the history here. That's what's been going on. And, there's been issues not only, with this during the school year now. There's been issues with the child texting mom while at dad's house and asking for her to get her stuff. And so that's another issue here. And I'm going to talk about that.
What, let me ask before we go any further, what is your client's educational background?
Do you have any college?
No.
So have you graduated high school?
Yeah.
She's graduated high school, but she doesn't have any college education.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, there's issues before school and after school with the current order under dad's time because dad has to go to work at 5:30 a.m. And so the child is just at home by herself. She has to get ready for school by herself and go out and wait for the bus. And, we're going to talk about, she has a history of having panic attacks and she's at home by herself. So she really needs to have a parent there with her she needs that emotional support, to get her, a good start to the day. And then after school, dad will often go to the gym and then the child's at home. And so she's texting mom I think there was one instance where she has to get feminine care products and we've got in our exhibits photos of mom driving to the marital residence. That's Exhibit J. So the first one is on February 7th. And that's at 3:46 p.m. And there's a house with a blue car and that's a marital residence. And so mom is just documenting, hey, dad's not here and I'm driving to the house because the child's asking for something. And that's a Friday. And so she asked for feminine care products that day. The next photo is on March 3rd at 5:46 p.m. And so dad drives a pickup truck and it's not in the driveway. And that's where he parks it. And so my client's documenting that he's not at home. And so Monday, March 3rd, that's the next photo at 5:46 p.m. On Mondays, mom drops off the child's luggage bag because she drives the school bus to school. She can't take her clothes and all that in a bag. So she's been dropping it off on Mondays. And so she's just documenting that the child's at home by herself, without dad, and the child's there to meet her at the door, obviously, that type of thing. The next one, it says today on there, that was taken on March 24th. That's at 3:25 p.m. Mom's dropping off luggage, and then my client says dad was still at work at 6 p.m. So there's issues where after school, the child's still at home by herself. So we don't think that should be appropriate. My client's documented that there's been multiple days in January when the first order was first started that dad was home late and the child's having to figure out what to do for dinner. She doesn't know what to eat for dinner. On the 21st, we have a text message in our exhibits where dad says, Exhibit K, dad says, hey, you can pick up Nara, but please be sure to bring her home by 9 o'clock. That was his day for parenting time, but he had to work late. And my client had to actually drive to the military base and get his sergeant involved to make this happen because she was so worried about her being home all evening by herself. So that's really the issue here is
Well, there shouldn't be any reason why she can't at 15 stay at home by herself. Although at 15, I don't think it's the wisest thing for a child to be home a lot by themselves and not their activities be supervised. And I don't know, they didn't seem to indicate they were aware of these anxiety, fear issues, but I would imagine the breakup of her parents have certainly caused her some angst, and that a counselor can hopefully help with that. But I mean, we're not going to get a situation. I agree. If he's swinging shifts, first, second, third, and he's not there in the morning and he's not there when she gets home, and nobody's supervising her phone activities or computer activities or who's at the house and that kind of thing. That's problematic. But to suggest that a parent needs to be with her all the time at 15 years of age is impractical and I think unnecessary. I mean, the part of their goal is to start getting this child ready for independent living. But I can understand that this is quite an adjustment for her. But what is the concern about extended periods of time and the child either not being able to cope, being alone, or it lends itself to her not being properly supervised?
I think just from talking to my client that they have a close relationship and she feels isolated. I mean, she's feeling isolated if she's at home by herself and doesn't have friends come over or siblings. I think it's an isolation thing and it's just not mentally healthy. So I think she's texting my client to come. I think there was one instance she brought her McDonald's. I mean, she's obviously looking for that someone to interact with, and it's not. It's her emotional. I guess it's that factor under the statute. It's her emotional needs that aren't being met. If you wake up and you're responsible for getting yourself ready for the day, and you're 15, you have to go out to a bus, and then, I mean, kids need more emotional support than I think that at that age than what she's getting under the current circumstance. So it's really the emotional needs. My client's proposal is going to meet her emotional needs better.
Okay.
Exhibit I, we've got a photo of an unsecured firearm. We've got their exhibits. It's now it's now secured. It's great. Want the court to be aware though that, it was probably our motion that caused that. So there's evidence obvious that wasn't the case. And so that's obviously a concern.
Can you tell me who the therapist is that she's seeing?
So what I understand is my client started her to see scheduled for her to see a therapist, and then the petitioner sent a message saying, "Hey, I wasn't invited," and my client thought she was going to get in trouble for scheduling it without him. So it's my understanding it never really took off.
Okay, well, that irrespective of the parenting time, that's going to be a requirement of the court. I cannot take one parent's word as to the mental state of the child over another. And so I need somebody for her to talk to, but somebody objective to advise the court the issues that she's struggling with and the concerns that the therapist may have for her. And that's just helpful in these kinds of situations to have an independent third party that hopefully is a advocate for the child and can provide the court with some insight as well.
Okay.
All right,
moving
go
on
ahead.
moving on to the next legal issue, spousal maintenance. The court's aware my client works 32.5 hours a week, earning $13.77 an hour. The ex parte order kicked her out of their marital residence, their house. And so the ex parte spousal maintenance right now is $1,000 a month. Ex parte child support's $83 a month. So she's getting $1,083 a month plus her income from her employment. It's just simply not enough to live in a reasonable accommodations. So we are asking for spousal maintenance to be increased. I looked at Dad's original domestic relations affidavit, and I think there were some errors. He filed an amended one, but I figured his ability to pay maintenance and child support was $2,405 per month, based upon his original domestic relations affidavit. He's since filed an amended one. He states that the mortgage has increased for the rental in San Antonio, and he has more expenses that he forgot to claim in his first affidavit. So he represents his ability to pay child support and spousal maintenance is $2,020 a month in his amended domestic relations affidavit.
And by ability to pay, it's what you believe is left over.
That's what
pay everything that's left over.
That's what I'm reading, because he's paying 2 mortgages. His pickup truck is $800 a month. The gas for that truck is $500. It's an extra large truck. So that's one of the issues, but yeah, the leftover amount from what he represents is 2020. I calculated on his first affidavit for it to be 2,405.
Is your client opposed as far as the San Antonio? I'm not inclined to show income for him from the San Antonio property. I mean, if they can establish that, you know, here's what we owe on the house, here's the mortgage payment, here's what we receive in rent, and any remaining money is put in some kind of auxiliary fund that neither one of them touch for repairs, insurance, everything associated with the house, until you guys can either litigate or come to some final resolution in the divorce. Is your client opposed to that?
I mean, I don't think she's opposed to that. I think the issue is that we are asking the court to find that the rental business is breaking even. That's per the tax return. The schedule, I can't remember which schedule it is. Let's see. It's in their exhibits. It's breaking even on the 23 tax return. The amended domestic relations affidavit, I think, represents it's operating at a loss of about 180 a month. So I don't think, we're not asking for that to be extra income, and they're asking for it to be counted as operating at a loss. So that, and my calculations of his ability to pay.
Well, I think ultimately that house is gonna have to be put up for sale, period. But I would imagine. And so what I don't have before me, no one provided me with what they paid for it and what it is currently valued at. You know, until the last year and a half, when interest rates got high, real estate property was increasing in value exponentially. And so I don't know what they bought that San Antonio house for and what it's valued at, but if there's much equity there, the house is gonna have to just be sold. I would think. So, okay, what else?
Well, Your Honor, we filed a domestic relations affidavit for mom. She needs to get her own place. She's living with a friend. That's Exhibit T, as in Tom. It's a statement from her friend and her friend's family. And she really wants to get her own place because she feels like she's, you know, at some point she's going to overstay her welcome, right? So she needs to be able to get her own place. We've got her need at $4,174 a month to rent a 2-bedroom at $1,600 a month, and she includes, you know, expenses for her comfort in there and her DRA. But so we're just, the relief we're requesting is a combined amount of child support and maintenance at $2,405 per month. So however the court wants to slice and dice child support and maintenance, we're asking for the combined total to be $2,405 a month, so that all the extra money is going towards her that isn't needed for petitioner. And I want to remind the court that, you know, petitioner receives a basic allowance for housing and sustenance, and that's higher than what it would be if, you know, part of that's supposed to go towards my client. So I just want the court to look at the big picture here. So that's the relief that we're
I
requesting on
didn't quite
spousal maintenance.
understand the BOE allowance or how much he's getting, because I'm not sure how that was calculated into his income. But not sure I understand the allowances that he's getting for living off base. Can you tell me exactly how much he gets as an allowance above and beyond his salary?
Yes, let me look at the leaves and earnings statement. So Exhibit M as in Mary shows that the basic allowance for sustenance is $465.77 a month. And the basic
$465.77
$465.77. Yes.
for
For basic allowance for substance, BAS.
Okay. What about housing?
BAH is $1,686 a month.
1,000 what?
$686 a month.
Okay, and what's the house payment again?
I'd have to look at the domestic relations affidavit. The court will give me a minute here.
And does he have any kind of disability rating at all? An extra income from any kind of disability rating?
No, Your Honor.
Okay,
So the mortgage payment is $2,378 a month.
okay.
Yeah, so we're just asking, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
I'll go ahead then. Has she checked, where's the daughter going to school?
is it the Andover High School?
Under Central High School.
Andover Central High School.
Okay, and has she looked into apartments, condos, townhouses, houses? I mean, has she made a list? Has she looked at what's available for her and what the cost will be to put down a deposit or anything of that nature?
Have you looked at all?
I look some places.
Okay,
The apartment, I look at an apartment for 2 bathrooms, it's close, just close to the school. And then I look some houses too.
okay.
Mhm.
She's been looking. We put 1,600 in the domestic relations affidavit as a rough estimate. Is that?
Yeah.
She thinks it's a fair number.
Okay, so she's basically looking at apartments or duplexes then.
Yeah,
It's any house in Andover is gonna rent for 2,000. But she's gonna try to stay in the Andover area if she can.
I would assume so because she works there, and I mean, it'd be if she could. I mean, yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, what else? Let me go to your.
Uh,
Go to
Next
your
legal
motion.
issue. Yeah, next legal issue is child support. Current ex parte amount is with shared residency. I think dad's owing 83 a month. Both parties have submitted proposed worksheets. Both parties agree that dad's income is 8,733 a month, and that mom's income is 1,788. I believe the dispute is who should remain at shared residency or primary. So we're asking for it to be with mom designated as primary, which would bump child support up to 1,010 a month. So we're asking for that relief on child support. And I filed an amended worksheet on eFlex. So,
All right,
second to last legal issue is vehicles. There's 4 vehicles. There's a 2018 Ford F-250, a 2018 Mitsubishi Lancer, and a 2021 Mitsubishi G4, and a 2006 Toyota minivan. The ex parte order grants father possession of the truck, the 2 Mitsubishis, and grants my client possession of the minivan. The issue is the minivan just has all kinds of problems. It's got bald tires, it shakes when it stops. The air conditioner and heater don't work. There's a windshield wiper motor broken, and the CV joints are leaking. Our motion asks for her to be able to drive the Mitsubishi. Now we've got the exhibit showing the cylinder head's been removed. My client's seen that Mitsubishi move around in the driveway before, so with the cylinder head now removed, she's questioning if that was removed after the motion was filed. But irregardless, it's obvious that she can't drive that now. With all the repairs that the van needs, she's gonna need it. It's gonna need in the shop for a while, and she's gonna get a rental car. So she's asking for a $3,000 judgment to be paid within 30 days for her to take the van to the shop and get the rental vehicle. The 2 other Mitsubishis are project cars for racing, apparently. She needs a vehicle that's reliable and safe for the child. So that's our request of relief on the vehicle. The last legal issue is wife's request for attorney's fees. She's had to borrow $3,000 from a friend to retain our firm. I can tell the court that money's probably gonna be all about used up with all the motion filing and preparing and all that. That's exhibit S and T to show that she did in fact get a transfer from a friend for this. I mean, the husband's in the military, he's gonna get a military pension at 20 years. That's gonna be where all the retirement is. There's a little bit of money in the TSP. When I say a little, I'm talking about $17,600. My client needs money, to pay for representation because she needs to figure out how to calculate her portion of the military pension. That requires sending discovery to figure out the credible years of military service, rank, high 36 months of base pay. And then she probably needs to hire someone to do the math, and we call them an expert witness, but we've got a person in Florida that handles it. And we have a relationship with them, they can do that. But we need to get that done for her. And so we need to do discovery, and we don't know how much litigation there's gonna be. So we are asking for a judgment of $8,000 to be paid the wife. And obviously the money's there in the TSP, the husband can make a withdrawal. So we'd ask for that to be paid within 30 days. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. What about their position that the court doesn't have the authority during the temporary orders in the case to divide property? The court only has the legal authority to order the division of property at the final hearing.
Your Honor, I have to look at the temporary order in this case. Most cases I see the temporary orders state that you can dispose of marital property for reasonable living expenses or attorney's fees. So let me pull up the temporary order in this case.
Well, I think generally where it's been challenged is not when there's cash available, but where there are pensions or things that are tied up that have to actually physically be divided, or real estate, or things of that nature, the court making interlocutory orders to divide property. I think it's been suggested that that's not appropriate for the court to do. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you can't get some kind of order that he pays something or a judgment or it be included in spousal support or something like that. But I'm not sure I can start dividing up assets at the initial phase of the divorce itself.
Your Honor, my response to that would be, we're asking for an $8,000 judgment. The petitioner can be responsible for getting that however he sees fit. If he wants to go get a title loan on his truck or one of his 2 cars, if he wants to sell one of those cars or both of those cars, those project cars, if he wants to trade in his truck for a smaller truck or a car, I mean, however he wants to do it, we're just asking for an $8,000 judgment. And he can do it however he wants. We have, that's our requested relief.
Okay, so they own 2 houses, but they have no savings other than this TSP account. They have no CDs, no savings in the bank, no savings accounts that have any amount of money.
I have to look at that domestic relations affidavit real quick.
I'm just trying to find a source of cash somewhere.
I mean, I'm looking at the amended DRA. There's a savings in a USAA with $1,835. There's 2 checking accounts. I assume the mortgage is paid out of both of those. So I think it's really just check to check from just observing the DRA.
Okay. All right. Thank you, counsel. Ms. Story.
Yes, Your Honor. First, for the record, I would like to let the court know I did file an affidavit in support of temporary orders. It was filed on January 6th of 2025. Just wanted the court to be aware of that. And also in filing that, when we declare that alternate housing is available for both parties, my client had informed me and has continued to inform me that the respondent does have 2 adult children that live in Wichita with housing available. I would like to first move to the issues regarding the daughter. Respondent does work the first shift and has worked the first shift since since January of this year, and they have not moved him, and they have indicated that because he has his daughter, they're not going to move him to different shifts so that he can have a stable work time for his daughter, and that is exhibited in Exhibit 11, which has his work schedule from March, January, or it has a schedule for March, April, June, and July to show that he will still be working the first shift. When the petitioner wakes up and gets ready for work, he makes sure that the daughter is ready for school every morning without being there, and that's confirmed with Exhibit 13. We show that he gets a text message from his daughter at 6 a.m. or around 6 a.m. every day to say, "I'm awake." Dad says, "Good morning, love you." And she says this multiple times, "I'm awake, I'm awake, I'm awake,"
Okay.
to make sure that she is up for school.
What are his hours then on first?
What's your hours on first?
So I come in at 5:30 and then I leave around 3:30. 3 and 3:30. So it depends. But I'm usually home by 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay, is your job like a desk job? Do you sit a lot or are you active?
Both.
Okay,
So I'm an aircraft mechanic. So sometimes I'm inside on a desk job. Other times I'm outside watching the aircraft launch or supervise.
okay. Do they provide you with any physical training or opportunity during the day while you're at work to do lifting or running or anything to maintain your physical?
Physical activities have to be done in our own time. We don't have a time set up at work.
Okay. And Ms. Story, what is your client's position about the upcoming summer? I mean, based on what I have in front of me, I'm not that concerned about his parenting time during the school week, with him leaving before she does. I do want to make sure that he has cameras around the house.
He does, Your Honor. He does have cameras.
Okay, but you know, and he may have to come home, make supper and see her after school and then do an evening workout or something. I'm not sure. I mean, I think his time away from her should be restricted to right before and after school, be restricted to his work hours. But summer is going to be a long stretch of her being alone, which I agree is not preferred. So have you been able to talk to him about summer care for her? And I don't mean care in terms of like daycare, childcare. I'm just talking about somebody being available to her, checking on her, looking after her, keeping track of her activities and that kind of thing.
We've discussed putting her in a summer program during the school day or during the day where she might be at school. She also has neighborhood friends in the neighborhood who have parents in the neighborhood as well, Your Honor.
Okay, well, I can tell you that I'm inclined to go with mom over any third parties for the summer. So we're just gonna have to figure out a schedule during the school year and one during the summer. And of course, and I'm gonna look back through here. I don't know how I missed your affidavit. I owe you an apology and I'm sincerely sorry.
That's okay,
As
Your
I
Honor.
indicated though, I went through this case pretty fast, faster than normal, just because of what all was going on that week, which is not your fault at all. But I am going to need a schedule if he's activated.
Okay,
So we'll have to do something with regard to that as well. Now, we've used mediation in Andover. It's very expensive. And I'm just not seeing where these parties have much cash to work with. They probably each have to pay $1,000 to get started, and it could be $3,000 to $4,000 a piece to finish a parenting plan. So I'm thinking that maybe we find some kind of mediation initially. Even if it's like Mediation Works or something, some low cost mediation to get them started. And
Your
see
Honor,
if we can't come up with a parenting plan, unless the two attorneys want to sit down in a room together and have the clients somewhere close by. I'm never opposed to that, but you got to give the folks the skills. Fortunately for them, they only have one child and she's 15. And so they don't have that many years. Thankfully, this is not a 6-year-old child. Because there are complications with service and things of that nature. So they don't have too far to go. But they still need some good skills to be on the same page with parenting, discipline, rules, all that kind of stuff. So do you have a mediator that you are familiar with, that you think might work for these parties?
yes, Your Honor. Midland Mediation, it's low cost mediation. It's through Kansas Legal Services. It's a separate
Okay.
entity of Kansas Legal Services, but it's one that I'm familiar with from working there.
I think that's probably what I'm gonna order. It might be that the military has mediators, but I can see that if there's some counseling going on or marriage counseling or something there, but I'm afraid it would just feel too one-sided for her. And so I think Midland's a good choice too. Okay, so he's on first shift.
Yes, Your Honor.
He has proposed what he thinks should happen for the summer. What else?
Your Honor, we would like to address the allegations of the guns being left unsupervised. There's
Okay.
been gun safes in that home since they have moved to Wichita, and prior. The petitioner has had access to those safes and the respondent has had access to those safes. The picture provided by the respondent is of the nightstand. Petitioner contends he has never left a gun in the nightstand. He puts them away in their safes. We have provided pictures of the safes, and those are
Okay.
Exhibit 15.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna do an order
Yeah,
that for some reason I thought I saw an AR-15, but I'm just going to do, but it's 171, that wouldn't fit in. Hopefully that fits in a safe, but that wouldn't fit in the nightstand.
that one's locked, Your Honor.
Okay, so there's just gonna be a standing order that
Yeah.
no guns be available to the child or accessible. I mean, that's liability there for anybody with kids. And now that he's been put on notice that mom believes that she's having some adjustment issues or anxiety, we don't want, that's another reason to monitor her, get her in counseling, and just make sure she has easy access to any firearms. And he knows that, being in the military. I wouldn't be surprised if they have educational courses or something on that, but that's going to be an added order. Okay, what else?
Your Honor, regarding the rental property in Texas, they made allegations that we were not representing the income coming from that home correctly. In the lease that was for 2023 and 2024, which is Exhibit 7, it was $2,300, but when they re-signed the lease in August of 2024, it was $2,200. I do want to let the court know and be made aware that we use that to calculate child support. We use that income to calculate our child support. So we were in no way hiding that. There was a
Yeah, I thought you did. I don't want you to do that, though.
Okay,
I mean, I think this is a wash and we just need to wait to see if they're gonna sell it.
okay,
And you need to get the value and what a real estate agent thinks they could list it for. I don't remember how long they've had that property, whether that's a short-term property too or not. But anyway, I just think that any extra money from the rent, he's gonna have to show paperwork of what he's spending the money on and put it and set up an account for the house. If he's not paying out that month, that it's in that account for taxes, insurance, homeowners, you know, calling a repair person, or I don't know if they have a house management company or something, a real estate management company, but okay. Yeah, no, I don't think you were hiding anything there. Go ahead.
well, and for exhibit number 9, we did provide both the court and opposing counsel the property rental mortgage statement for for this year. And it does go up, so we do pay more in mortgage than what we receive in rent. And we also provided exhibit 10, the homeowner's rental fees. The mortgage includes the insurance and the taxes, and then 10 is what he pays extra for the HOA. Your
Is
Honor,
that what puts him in the negative, the HOA fees?
the HOA and the mortgage, because he's getting $2,200 from the house, but he's paying $2,400 on the mortgage, which includes the insurance and taxes, and then he's in the negative because of the HOA fees.
So I didn't read that lease. It looked like a really good lease, but it was really lengthy. So I didn't read that whole thing, but I don't know why you wouldn't raise the rent to make sure you're at least covering the basic expenses of the home. And the HOA seemed high, but they must have a pool, not, wasn't it like 3 something every 3 months?
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, I guess to some people that's not high, $100 a month or so, but I didn't look to see when that lease, that rental agreement expires to see if the rent can be raised.
I believe it's August 2025, Your Honor.
Okay. So you're asking that difference, that $200 show as an expense, that he be allowed to show that as an expense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Has he been the person solely managing all of this?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I just don't quite understand why he went with 2,200. Unless he just didn't. Do you know how long they lived in the house?
They've been in there, how long the parties lived in the house, Your Honor, or the
Yeah.
people? How long did you live in the house? 2 years?
So we left in July 2023. So almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years, Your Honor. The parties lived almost 3 years in that home.
Okay. Okay, what else?
Your Honor, we have our proposed child support worksheet. I believe Mr. Mantala let the court know that the reason it's different is that ours we're wanting shared and they're wanting residential. So we've included our updated proposed child support worksheet. And as for spousal, Your Honor, I want to touch base a little bit on the spousal. They're claiming that an apartment in Andover would be $1,600 a month. Your Honor, I live in luxury apartments in downtown Wichita, and my rent is not $1,600 a month, and it's 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom. In fact, my father, who lives in Andover, lives in a duplex that has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and it's not $1,600 a month. So I think that's a misrepresentation. I do understand that different places can have more or less. But I think before we make a decision on what is appropriate for spousal support outside of what we have been giving, there needs to be some research done before that can be changed, because that feels like a gross misstatement of what she would pay for that particular expense.
Okay, maybe it's 12 or 1300 and then utilities. I mean, I imagine she could do something with some basic utilities. And it would be 1600 a month. Yeah, I hate for her to have to live in an apartment with the child. And I don't know how long he's gonna be able to afford the house. I just don't think they're in a great financial situation for either one of them at the end of the day.
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you set the spousal? I know I wrote that down somewhere. Let me look here.
We set it at 1,000 per month, Your Honor, and on top of the 1,000 per month, we do have my client paying both parties' car insurance. He's paying all the marital debt, including all of the credit cards that have incurred prior to their separation. He's paying both mortgages. He's paying cell phones for both parties. In the child support worksheet, we've asked that he pay the minor child's direct expenses. So we're really asking him to pay everything that has been part of the marital
Okay,
debt and
But
giving
you
her 1,000.
but
Sorry,
you
Rob.
understand that we've got to come up with some cash to get her into a place. She has a right to have her own place and a bedroom for the child and have it be clean and safe. And she has a right to a good car that's running
Yes, Your
Wow.
Honor.
as well. So how do you propose that we get some cash out of this estate to get her moving forward and making progress? Have they filed their taxes for 2024?
Your Honor, they have not filed their taxes for 2024.
Do they have any idea how much they might get back? What have they historically received?
About 2,000, Your Honor.
My client doesn't know because she doesn't handle the finances.
Okay, can he borrow against this TSP or whatever account?
He gets penalized, Your Honor, if he takes out money from that account prematurely or borrows against it.
Well, usually on those, you can borrow, you can't borrow more than half, but you can borrow and then you pay it back with your checks and you're paying interest. But, and there is a handling fee. But I'm not really aware of penalties, but I'm not that familiar with you know, the different programs, military savings and all that. I'm not really familiar with all of that. So is she on his TRICARE and the child on his TRICARE? Is he on TRICARE?
Yes, Your Honor. He pays for the extra for dental and vision, but both parties are on TRICARE and so is the daughter.
Okay, and I do know that on TRICARE, Mr. Mantala, as you well may know, once I pronounce him divorced, her coverage ceases. So she's going to have to look into what her cost of health care at the school for a single policy is going to cost her, and make sure that when we do this divorce at some point that she's got something lined up. And I can't remember if, I mean, COBRA's federal. Do you know the story? Does the Air Force allow a COBRA on? I'm not sure they do.
I don't think that they do, Your Honor. I can't say definitively, but from previous experience, I don't believe that they do allow COBRA.
Okay.
But I can look more into that, Your Honor. And Your Honor, we would
Either
like-
one of them have Bitcoin, stock, anything?
No, Your Honor.
Do they have good credit?
Mr. Rivera does have good credit, Your Honor.
Mr. Mantala, does your client know her? Does she have a decent credit score?
I heard that one time he was doing it, investment.
She's asking about your credit, if you need to apply, do you have a good credit score?
Oh, no, because when he closed the accounts, my credit scores go down.
She says her credit score isn't very good, and my client doesn't want to add, she saw that Petitioner was using a Robinhood account at one time. We don't know if it's open, it's not on his DRA, but to answer the court's question.
Okay.
Your
Well, I
Honor,
mean,
Your Honor.
again, I'm looking at what could come up here and I am concerned. She's got to have, to even apply for an apartment. She's gonna have to show source of income and have a decent credit score. To get an apartment. So.
And Your Honor, we did want to touch upon the car a little bit.
Okay,
The car that Petitioner, or that the court awarded the respondent is the car that she has historically used throughout the marriage. The Lancer has been his project car, and she has known that that's been his project car, and we've provided proof of it being a project car. The other Mitsubishi that was purchased is for their daughter, and they purchased that car to fix it up for her daughter, for their daughter. So there are 4 cars. One is his truck, one is her car that she's historically used, one is their project car, and one is the car for the 15-year-old who will be 16 in December when she'll be learning how to drive soon. As far as Petitioner is aware, it did not have issues that she brought to him prior to the separation, and they have not provided proof in their exhibit notebook of needing anything done to it, or what repairs would cost, what rental would cost. So we do have concerns about that, but obviously we will do what is ever fair, just, and equitable for the court. But we do want the court to know the truck is the truck that he uses daily. The minivan was the car that she used daily, and there are 2 cars, but one is a project car that's not going to be reliable for the respondent, and he frankly doesn't feel comfortable with her driving that since it's a project car, because they want to be safe, and the other car was purchased for their daughter.
okay. All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Story, remind me. I'm looking at the temporary parenting plan here. What their schedule every. No, that's the proposed temporary parenting.
The temporary parenting plan has the petitioner exercising each week from Monday 8 AM to Wednesday 8 AM. And then mom exercising Wednesday 8 AM to Friday 8 AM. And then they alternate weekends, Friday 8 AM to Monday 8 AM.
Does your client work any weekends?
Sometimes, Your Honor. Only once every 2 months, Your Honor.
All right. So I am going to increase spousal support to $1,800 a month. I am going to keep the current parenting plan that's in place, but I'm going to refer the parties to mediation. Which we need a summer parenting plan included. which I want mom to have the primary time during the summer weekdays. You know, he could have Wednesday night overnight, you know, at least one overnight, during the week. And so the child support's gonna have to be tweaked. And it's whatever they come up with, you know, for the summer. I really need both of them to be pretty fair about this. I mean, I think it's gonna be ultimately kind of a shared, semi-shared, partly shared during the year kind of thing. And so I need you to think about the monies and the times and be fair with that in terms of even the summertime. Mr. Mantla, come up with a reasonable amount of time that he can spend during the week. So I'm gonna require, Mr. Mantla, that your client take the car to a shop and get it inspected and get it evaluated for what it needs mechanically. Otherwise, you know, the value that's the truck. I mean, I'll just need to wait to hearing to see the value of the one collector that he's working on, and if the other one truly was the intent of the parties to fix up for the daughter, I think somebody was taking her to get her permit, and she's going to be starting to drive, so she will need a vehicle. I am going to give Ms. Mantla a judgment of $3,000. So I'm not sure how he's gonna, where he'll come up with that, but whether he needs a short-term personal note or something like that, but she needs $3,000 to get started. And I'm reserving any attorney's fees for the conclusion of the case. I know she owes her friend some money, but she's probably gonna have to use most of that just to get moved in somewhere. And maybe make payments to her friend. I think they're gonna have to decide about the San Antonio house, whether they keep it or get rid of it. Mr. Rivera is gonna be responsible for all the bills he's currently responsible for. And then you're gonna have to figure out if there's any equity anywhere or what's available for her as far as his military benefits go. Obviously, he stays in the marital home. Obviously, if he shifts for some reason from first shift, we need to revisit. Again, I think I've indicated I don't want the child alone for long periods of time. At 15, she needs supervision. She doesn't need daycare, but she needs somebody knowing how much time she's spending on her phone, what she's doing, what friends she's with, how long she's there, that kind of thing. And then I want the order on the firearms, and then all the other standard orders that relate to how the parents are supposed to co-parent and treat each other. They have to complete it before this is all over with, a co-parenting class. And I think mediation will help them. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Story that you do an order for mediation. And then I'm gonna ask Mr. Mantla that you journalize the court's ruling today. Do you know, Mr. Mantala, did they take her monies and divide it up over 12 months so that she's gonna get paid during the summer?
Are you getting paid during the summer?
No,
She says no.
Okay, she is really she may have to get a part-time Casey's job or something for some summer income. And then again, that's something they need to look at in mediation in terms of what their agreement will be as far as her number of hours being alone at any one residence or the other. Like I said, this is gonna be a difficult one because there just isn't a lot of money to go around. And the more they have to litigate, the more money it's gonna cost them. But they both have good attorneys, so I'm optimistic about that. What have I not ordered? What needs clarified? What else do we need
Your
to do
Honor?
today? Yes.
I think the only question I have is when does that $3,000 payment need to be made so he can be in compliance with that?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be nice that April 1st is tomorrow. So I would say by April 15th. Maybe she can plan to do a apartment on the 15th. It doesn't look like she's gonna get into anything by the 1st.
Your Honor, can we request April 30th? He thinks April 15th would be too difficult to get 3,000.
Well, I want the parties, who's been doing their taxes?
Mr. Rivera.
Does he just do TurboTax or something like that?
He does H&R Block.
Okay, so he physically goes somewhere in Andover or Walmart or, well, not
Yes,
the
sir.
Walmart in Andover, probably. Actually, Andover doesn't have a Walmart.
I don't think it does.
Is there
Yeah.
an H&R store there in Andover business?
Yes, Your Honor, there is. Mhm.
Okay. So I want the parties within the next 2 weeks for that information to be delivered. They can go separately and provide information, review the information with whoever's doing their taxes, get stuff signed off and get it filed. I have no idea how fast returns are coming back. For a while there, they were really quick, but I don't know about now. That would be a source of some money. I want him to try by the 15th and at least get half of it paid or something.
Okay.
Because she's gonna at least have to have first month's rent. And I honestly don't think she can anywhere near Andover rent anything that's 2-bedroom for less than $1,200 a month. I just don't think she's gonna find anything. And then utilities and that sort of thing. And, you know, if you get a little nicer place for $1,300 or $1,350 or even $1,400, you're gonna do that. But and once she pays utilities, that's gonna be $1,500 or $1,600 a month for her, but she definitely is gonna need at least $1,500 for deposits if she's never had gas in her name or electricity in her name. They may make her do deposits. I mean, so the sooner the better. And I guess I'm gonna order that at least half of it be paid by the 15th and the other half paid by the 30th. What else?
Your Honor, I had a question on the court. Well, I've written down the court ordered mom to have primary residency during the summer and dad to have one overnight. Is that correct?
At a minimum.
And then
What I'm
I
kind
have,
of asking for her is to talk with him and the daughter and see, you know, maybe her going on Thursdays instead of Friday for the weekend. I mean, I want I want her to understand that this is really intended to be a lot of sharing and to not deprive him of all weekdays just because she has you know, primary because she has all the daytime during the week is all. But yeah, that's a minimum. Yes.
okay, and then the court made a comment that child support needs to be tweaked during the summer. Is that the court's order that there'll be a separate child support worksheet for like June, July, and August?
Yeah, I think there needs to be.
Okay, those are my only two questions.
And figure out how you're gonna do that in the long term. And they've gotta do the military if he gets deployed. And then please send me some verification that the child has an appointment and that releases have been signed for the court. Because I think this therapist is a pretty high priority for the child.
And Your Honor, I did have, I just wanted to clarify. Previously, we talked about not including the rental income in the income. We're just gonna include his BAH, salary, BAS, and proficiency pay, what's on the learning.
Right.
Okay,
Right, no income, and I mean, I'm gonna allow him to show an expense, but I still ordered. The $1,800.
yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good luck, folks. If you need anything from me, let me know. I appreciate the notebooks and the information. I think we've got to set this for review in 60 days. I'm optimistic they're gonna have at least a temporary parenting plan worked out. They'll look at holidays, they'll look at deployment, they'll look at the summer months. I would imagine, I mean, this is just gonna be fluid, so I want him to get the skills in mediation, because I would imagine, you know, that, I mean, I don't know much about the child, but I would imagine next summer she'll be 16, she might want to work a little bit. So I don't think every summer is going to be the same, is what I'm saying. But this is certainly a transition time for her. I think it's sort of a fragile, vulnerable period for her, and she is in an age where supervision and decisions matter. All right, the end of May, what do I got here? I don't. Anybody know what the last day of school is? Here, I have a domestic day. I'm sorry, May 15th. I'm probably gonna need to set it there. I have, did we add someone to this May 15th? Josh?
No, that was set June 12th, and I have,
Oh.
your calendar should be current for the 15th.
Okay, so I have a 9:30, 10, 11. Do you want to do 11 again? Are you
that
both
fine with you?
available May 15th at 11 by Zoom?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your
All right.
Honor, we're available.
Okay, I'm gonna do a status conference then, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. If there's nothing further, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.